Yes, we can have nice things as the White Sox just made their biggest free agent signing in years by landing Japanese free agent slugger Murakami. So it's just massive that they got him for the deal that they were able to sign him to, especially when it was looking like he was going to be priced out of their price range the moment he was posted. I'll take a potential 25-year-old version of him. And if he is Joey Gallo, which we did saw the dying days of his hitting career, reaction that the White Sox reportedly are signing Munetaka Murakami, and hopefully you're excited as I am. But first, let's discuss why this is such a huge deal for the White Sox and why you should love this deal. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right, so this deal is huge for the White Sox for a few reasons. And I think I came up with like 7 or 8, and maybe as I keep going, I'll come up with some more, and hopefully you'll come up with some more. But first, it does officially reopen the Japanese talent pipeline. Second, they get the power bat that this lineup desperately needed to add. And especially he's another power left-handed bat. So just imagine him and Colson Montgomery crushing dingers all the live long day. And then add in maybe Kyle Teal starting to hit home runs and Edgar Caro starting to hit home runs. And if Lenyn Sosa, whether you rotate him in at second base or DH, wherever, if he's hitting home runs, suddenly you've got a lineup that is designed well for right field. Third, they actually won a free agent sweepstakes, which never happens. I mean, it sounded like the Angels were in on him, the Padres, the Pirates, and even though his market, at least the value declined, there were still teams interested in adding the Japanese Babe Ruth. Fourth, it is on a team-friendly deal. And while he does have high boom or bust potential, I'm actually okay with the White Sox signing him for just 2 years because of that bust potential. So at least you have an easy exit ramp. And if he booms, well, I'll get to that. Fifth, he gets a stress-free environment to potentially reach his immense potential. He's actually going to get a runway. Had he signed with a contender and struggled, they can't give him that much patience. The White Sox, they can give him the next year and a half. Sixth, he might be the team's long-term solution at first base if they do put him there, and hopefully they will. And 7, this could be this rebuild's version of Jose Abreu. So it's just massive that they got him for the deal that they were able to sign him to, especially when it was looking like he was going to be priced out of their price range the moment he was posted. And ESPN's Jeff Passan, he had it first, and he tweeted out third baseman Munetaka Murakami and the Chicago White Sox are in agreement on a 2-year, $34 million contract. Sources tell ESPN Murakami, 25, is the single-season home run champion in Japan and will bring his prodigious power to a rebuilding White Sox team. SoxMachine.com's James Fegan and 670 The Score's Bruce Levine, they also confirmed it locally that Murakami is coming on a 2-year deal. And why a 2-year deal? When there was speculation he was seeking over $100 million, which would have priced him out of the Sox price range. I mean, there was talk that he could even get $200 million when he was first posted. And again, I have the tweet up for those watching on. But this is what Passan tweeted at Jeff Passan. Concerns over Munetaka Murakami's swing and miss tendencies and questions of his defensive position gave teams pause in their pursuit of him. Rather than sign a lower dollar, longer-term deal, Murakami went short and will be a free agent at 27 with 2 years to allay the fears. In the meantime, the White Sox make their biggest free agent move in years. Murakami, Colson Montgomery, Kyle Teal, Edgar Caro, Miguel Vargas. Chicago has a lot of young, interesting talents, and the upside for Murakami is enormous. A savvy move to get 2 prime years. I mean, the White Sox made a savvy move. Let's celebrate that. Raise a banner. I mean, when do they ever do that? They rarely if ever make savvy moves lately. It's one of the things that sunk last decade's rebuild. But the 2-year deal is great because if the strikeout concerns do become a reality, the White Sox have a quick exit strategy. And I would say more if the exit or if the strikeouts concerns lead to the inability to just make pure contact. If he ends up like Tim Elko, you can get out of that deal pretty quickly. But if he does hit homers with regularity, you do got next season then to work out an extension. And before you say Jerry, but this is a deal that protects the organization if Murakami can't hold up his end of the bargain. I mean, the organization also has to help him, and then they've added Derek Showman as the hitting coach, so maybe him and Ryan Fuller, and as long as they have a good interpreter in place to make sure that they can, get the instructions that they need communicated, if they can help him out to make the adjustment and he can then do his part, it's a great deal. But if he does turn out to be the fears that everybody, the sum of all fears, well, it's a small risk rather than, say, having him on basically having a younger Andrew Benintendi with a projected $80 million albatross contract hanging around his neck, because that was what I talked about on Friday's show. ESPN was projecting that the market was shrinking down to at least a 5-year, $80 million deal. And while that would have been the richest contract in free agent history, that could still potentially be an albatross. This contract is not an albatross for the White Sox. It's basically an easy get out. And if he does make no indication of wanting to sign, which I would not like, you can flip him if he is what he's supposed to be, whether it's at this deadline or next deadline. I hope they don't next deadline or this deadline, because he should be a core player, because this guy has power off the charts. I mean, you got some baseball executives ranking it as 90 grade power, and the scale only goes up to 80. And this is how Passan describes this game. Murakami, 25, was arguably the most fascinating player to hit free agency this winter at 6'2", 230-pound left-handed slugger. With elite exit velocity, he was the youngest player on the market and heads to Major League Baseball with 246 home runs in his 8 seasons for the Tokyo Yakult Swallows. He has been a star in Japan since he hit 36 home runs as a 19-year-old in 2019. He followed that up with 56 home runs in 2022, breaking the record of a Japan-born player set in 1964 by Sadaharu Oh. Murakami, a 2-time Central League MVP, missed time last season with an oblique injury, but hit 22 home runs in 56 games with a 273, 379, 663 slash line. I mean, think about that. He would actually be tied for the White Sox lead had he been on the White Sox last season, even in 56 games. ESPN's Bradford Doolittle, he graded this as an A+ signing, writing this. While Murakami's hype initially seemed to suggest destination to a win-now team, he instead joins a team for a 2-year trial that isn't likely to contend during the length of the pact. But for the White Sox, this deal gives them a long audition with a player who, with adjustments, can be a premier middle-of-the-order hitter if he can get enough pitches to let that power play. At this price, it's more than a worthy project. If it succeeds, there will be a lot of teams looking back at this opportunity, wishing they had focused more on what Murakami can do and not what they think he cannot. And who knows, if Murakami, who is sure to be highly motivated after the way that his posting window unfolded, becomes some semblance of that 56-homer monster we first heard about, maybe he will decide his new Southside digs suit him just fine. And when he's ready to win, the White Sox club around him might be ready to do the same. Because I obviously want to get to your reactions, and looking at the comments, we got a lot, and I'm definitely going to be going up and down, making sure that you're, you get your voice heard and that type of stuff. Feel free to leave more comments, all that. Tell your friends to make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. But again, I like how Bradford Doolittle said that, the White Sox kind of focused on what he could do, not what he can't do. And the Athletics' Cody Stavenhagen and Will Salmon got one scout to go on the record to go over what his floor and ceiling is. And this is what the quote is. Quote, "That's just kind of who he is. So the strikeout percentage is going to be there." National League Pacific Rim scout told The Athletic in November. It's going to be, can he get enough? Can he get to enough home run damage to make it worth it? Is it going to be closer to Kyle Schwarber production or Joey Gallo production? End quote. And considering I was dreaming of Kyle Schwarber coming to the South Side this offseason, as that was one of the things that you guys know me, I was pounding on the table. Go after Pete Alonso. Go after Kyle Schwarber. You need power. And considering that I was hoping that they would get him, and I was always hoping they would get him when he was on the market, because it would have been amazing to see him hit home runs at 35th and Shields. I'll take a potential 25-year-old version of him. And if he is Joey Gallo, which we saw the dying days of his hitting career in spring training last spring training, well, you got an exit ramp. And there are questions at where do you put him defensively? I say first base, since I think Miguel Vargas can be better defensively at third base. Plus, you are going to eventually have to move Colson Montgomery there because either prospect Billy Carlson, this year's #1 draft pick, or whoever they pick at #1 overall this July, which is hopefully Rock Cholowski, they're eventually going to have to move Colson Montgomery there. And I think him being in the corner would be a good spot for his power. So you need to see if Murakami can be your first baseman of the future over Vargas, or say moving prospect Caleb Bonemer over to first. And again, why Murakami over Vargas at first too? Well, I just think Murakami has more power potential. And also the Sox can easily afford the risk, as again, wins and losses still won't matter next season. If Murakami, Montgomery, Teal, and Carroll are crushing home runs along with Lenine Sosa, Luis Robert Jr., and Vargas, providing solid production, the lineup is going to be better, but this young core still probably has to go through that phase of still learning how to win. I mean, I would love a worse to 90 wins like in 1990, but usually there's still going to be some growing pains. Plus, this bullpen is sketchy. And I think the White Sox have made it clear 2026 is basically phase 2 of the rebuild, which is all about internal improvement and the next wave of potential core players making their debuts in pitching. In pitching prospects, Noah Schultz, Hagen Smith, Tanner McDougal, and position prospects such as top prospect Brandon Montgomery and Sam Altanacci. And, there is still a ways to go before you can say this team is a contender, but Murakami could be a piece that, could be part of this competitive when the team is ready to be competitive. And, but this signing is massive because it can reopen the Pacific Rim for talent. I mean, the White Sox have been able, basically with this signing, to get back into the market that can help them get plug and play players. I mean, they had been able to reopen Korea and Japan to get those former U.S. born players who failed in the majors and then revive their big league hopes in Japan or Korea. But it would still be nice to get, that pipeline and turn back on to get a guy like Tadahito Aguchi or Shingo Takatsu. Those plug and play players the NPB has to offer, and the White Sox getting Murakami hopefully reopens that. And again, I also think that this could be this rebuild's version of Jose Abreu. I mean, again, an older international player, and, that's going to be able to help be that foundational piece, be that maybe that superstar. All right, well, let's get to your comments here. We got my man, Mr. Walls. It's going to be a fun summer on the South Side. Every day, or Don Berta. OMG, shocked. We got David Crosby. Doesn't make sense to trade Robert now. I agree. And I've kind of felt that. Let's see. Eddie, this puts Vargas at third, Murakami at DH. I think of this, I answered that yes, you're going to put Vargas at third. I mean, again, I think Murakami though should be at first base. Well, and I've seen some other comments. I was in some chats, with some of the publications I write for, like, well, this is going to eat up DH. Put him at first. I mean, again, you just need him to catch the ball. And yes, I would love Lenine Sosa to get a try too, but you can technically put Lenine Sosa at second base and tell him where to stand. I mean, the one thing that the one defensive position, this is what Eric says, what happens to Sosa? Put him at second and rotate him at DH. Because at least you can, and you rotate Maidroth, and you can rotate Maidroth around, and Montgomery with his back. I mean, this is a good problem to have. I mean, that's the other thing I keep saying, that, I mean, when have the White Sox had talented players? It's been a while since they've been acquiring them. So let's not, put our noses at this. Let's see, everyday or Thomas, nothing that I can see on the downside, all plus side right now. Major comeback, can't have him playing too well, else he will get priced out for you guys. Well, again, getting back to that, I mean, he's a free agent then after the 2027 season. Again, we don't know what the economic landscape is going to look like. And number two, Justin Ishbia will be buying the team in 2029. I think that gets to, at some point, you hope, and again, it's a big hope, that Jerry Reinsdorf kind of realizes that, Justin Ishbia is going to have to make some decisions once he gets ready to take over control of the team. Let's see. We got Ian Robb. Been a great December, really. I love that. And Town, where is he going to play? Again, I keep thinking it's he's going to be playing at first base. That's where I would put him. Again, my man, Mr. Walls, hitting home runs do matter. It does. And Lessel Bro, I like this suggestion. Sosa will be back up at first and second, part-time DH unless he gets traded. I mean, and you could potentially move Lenine Sosa now. I mean, again, I think he earned the right to return and earned the right to show that he can get better, but Murakami's got just a higher ceiling. I mean, at best, Sosa's going to hit 30 home runs, maybe. That's his ceiling. Murakami could potentially hit, you've seen it, 40 to 50 home runs a year. I'm going to take my chances on Murakami. Let's see. Thomas. He's got love the low stress environment idea. Plug and let him play. I got Don Todd. Does this bust the budget for any other signings? I mean, considering right now they had just 60 million, I believe it was like 67 million in projected signings. You're going to add again, it's a teen million type contract. I don't think it's going to totally bust or blow the budget. I mean, again, if I'm Chris Getz and I'm the handpicked general manager for this owner, I'm going to say, look, if you do want to get this things turned around, and I think he finally did get through it, it's not going to happen quickly. This is a guy that could help us get back to being competitive. We need to add him. But again, if you want to get things turned around eventually before you're out the door, we do need at least $100 million payroll, which is still pathetic for a team in the third biggest market. But we still need this type of money because we got to get some relievers in here. And not only that, if you get relievers on a 1-year deal, you can trade them at the deadline and get some of that payroll off. So I don't think it's going to bust, their payroll too much. Again, Wolf Larson, I'd love to see the White Sox be deep in the Asian market. Edgar Diaz is probably right ahead that he'll be moved to first. I mean, it just makes sense. And again, BGMer. I mean, it would be another, hey, you don't want to see it, but you can always trade him before his contract up. I mean, this gives you so much. So much. And he even says if we get priced out due to success, this just gives him so much flexibility. And that's what I like about it. The only thing that you could say is maybe you should have gotten a third-year option. But either way, this allows the White Sox to take a swing at getting a potential impact player for the rest of the decade.